Welcome to the Biomedical Podcast, the podcast that connects groundbreaking research with real-world answers. I'm Dr. Bensada, and in every episode, we examine new published articles to take a close look at the discoveries that are changing how we see science. We aim to fire up your interest and start a talk that goes beyond the lab.
Welcome back, curious minds, to the Biomedical Podcast. After a much-needed break, we are absolutely thrilled to be back for our second season, and really a huge thank you to all of you who sent messages asking about new episodes. Your enthusiasm, honestly, it really encourages us to keep this educative journey going. Okay, so let's dive in. Today, we're looking at your fascinating sources on one of the most rapidly evolving frontiers in medicine. We're talking about that intricate connection between our gut and our brain, specifically microbiome therapeutics and the gut-brain axis. How emerging things like live biotherapeutics and even engineered probiotics are starting to target neurological and psychiatric conditions by, literally talking to our gut flora. It's amazing stuff.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is just how much the science has progressed. We've moved beyond simply understanding this connection to, actively trying to modulate it for therapeutic benefit. Our goal today is to help you understand the latest clinical trial data, clearly, engagingly, cutting through the jargon to get to the core insights. You absolutely don't need to be a scientist to grasp how significant these findings are.
Okay, great. So let's start right at the beginning then. What exactly is this gut-brain axis everyone's buzzing about?
Think of it as a superhighway, a really busy communication network between your digestive system and your brain. It's a bidirectional link. That means it goes both ways. They're constantly influencing each other. Research from Martin's group back in 2018 showed this clearly. And your gut, it's not just a digestive tube, right? It's home to trillions of microorganisms, trillions, maybe over 2,000 different species, according to Thursby and Judge in 2017. It's a whole complex ecosystem down there.
Trillions?
Yeah.
That's just mind-boggling. How on earth do these tiny residents in our gut communicate with something as complex as our brain?
That's a great question. How indeed? They actually use several pathways. There are direct neural connections, like the vagus nerve. Paroli and Pearson talked about this in 2023. Think of it like a direct telephone line. They also communicate through the immune system, which is kind of constantly monitoring the gut, and importantly, by producing metabolites. These are tiny chemical messengers, things like short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, and even neurotransmitters, the same chemicals your brain uses. Krein and Dinan wrote about this quite a while ago, back in 2012. These signals can travel from the gut, get into our bloodstream, and some can even cross the blood-brain barrier to directly influence brain function.
Wow. So what does all this mean for our overall health then?
Well, this gut microbiome is absolutely pivotal, not just for digestion and immune function, but as we're learning more and more, for our mental health too. Nagpal and Winter's groups both highlighted this in 2018. And imbalances in this gut community, what scientists call dysbiosis, can have really far-reaching effects on our brain, our mood, how we handle stress.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Can we actually use these connections?
Yep.
Use gut-targeting therapies to help with mental health conditions like depression and anxiety?
Absolutely. The research is increasingly showing alterations in the gut microbiota in psychiatric disorders. Nikolova and colleagues discussed this in 2021. And the good news is we're seeing promising results from interventions. For instance, recent clinical guidelines, like those from Saris and Marks in 2020, now provisionally recommend probiotics as an adjunctive treatment for major depressive disorder.
Adjunctive. So, meaning helpful alongside other treatments, but maybe not a magic bullet on their own.
Precisely. Exactly that. It's part of a bigger picture. Meta-analyses, those studies that combine data from lots of other studies, indicate that these microbiome-targeted therapies can significantly improve depression symptoms overall. We've seen that in recent work by Pan's group, Zhang's group, Liu's group, all in the last couple of years. However, using probiotics as the only treatment, as a monotherapy, that still needs more robust evidence.
Right. Can you tell us about some specific studies that stood out, the ones showing this potential?
Sure. A randomized trial by Nikolova and her team in 2023 looked at a multi-strain probiotic as an add-on therapy for depression. They found the group taking the probiotic had greater improvements in both depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms. And importantly, no serious side effects were reported, which is always good news. Another interesting one by Hahn and colleagues in 2021 used a specific mix, Lactobacillus reuteri NK33 and Bifidobacterium adolescentis NK98. They gave it to healthy adults who had mild symptoms and found significant reductions in depression and anxiety, better sleep quality, and even a decrease in inflammatory markers like IL-6 in their blood.
So potentially helpful not just for diagnosed patients, but maybe even for those with, subclinical symptoms. That's quite a reach.
Indeed. And the impact can sometimes be quite dramatic. There was a study by Kukulis and others in 2023 looking at surgical oncology patients going through chemotherapy, obviously a very high-stress group. They found that just 1 month of what they called a psychobiotic treatment improved depression by over 60%, anxiety by 57%, stress over 60%. But here's the stark contrast. The placebo group. Their symptoms actually got worse. Depression increased by nearly 63%, stress by over 140%.
Oh, wow. That really underscores the potential difference, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
So how might these probiotics actually be working? What are the mechanisms?
Well, studies like Nikolova's suggest they can help normalize gut microbial diversity, increase beneficial bacteria. That makes sense. Other research, like a paper by Schaub and colleagues in 2022, found probiotics can influence the HPA axis, that's our body's main stress response system. They also saw improvements in hippocampal function, which is key for memory. And Merkel's group, more recently in 2025, showed a multi-species probiotic could enhance vagal nerve function that direct gut-brain line and improve sleep.
So it's not just about popping a pill. Maybe our lifestyle plays a role in how well these work.
That's a really important question. And yes, it seems so. A recent trial by Puentes-Guillen and their team in 2023 demonstrated just that. The effects of probiotics on anxiety were actually modulated by lifestyle behaviors. Things like how much exposure participants had to natural environments. And interestingly, they also found a novel link to improved mindfulness traits. It suggests changes in the gut could have this kind of bottom-up effect on our psychological state.
That's truly fascinating, connecting our inner microbes to the outside world and even our mental focus. But I noticed something else in the research you shared, geographic differences in efficacy. Why would that be? Why would a treatment work better in Asia than, say, Europe or America?
You've hit on a critical point. It highlights the complexity. A large meta-analysis by Pan's group in 2025 reviewed studies on these therapies for depression. They found efficacy in Asia, yes, but no clear evidence of effectiveness in Europe, America, or Oceania. It really shows how much the gut microbiome is influenced by things like genetics, diet, local environmental factors.
Yeah.
It's not the same everywhere. They also found something interesting about timing. Interventions under 12 weeks seemed effective, but treatments longer than that didn't show the same benefit.
Suggesting there might be an optimal treatment window, perhaps.
Possibly, or maybe the body adapts. We need more research there.
Okay, let's broaden the scope. Beyond depression and anxiety, where else is this science making an impact? What about autism spectrum disorder, ASD?
Right. We consistently see differences in the gut microbiota of children with ASD compared to neurotypical children. That link seems quite robust. But when it comes to using probiotics for ASD, the picture is, well, a bit more nuanced. A meta-analysis in 2024 concluded that while probiotics significantly improved GI symptoms, tummy troubles like constipation or diarrhea, which are common in ASD, they showed no statistical difference in the core symptoms of ASD itself, things like social responsiveness or aberrant behaviors.
So helpful for the gut issues, but maybe not directly for the core neurological aspects.
That's what the broad analysis suggests, yes. However, there's a however. There often is in science. A really compelling pilot study by Kong and colleagues in 2021 tried something different. They combined a specific probiotic, Lactobacillus plantarum PS128, with oxytocin in ASD patients. And that combination did lead to improvements in both social responsiveness and aberrant behavior scores. They even saw changes in the gut microbiome network hubs, like key organizing bacteria. The abundance of the Eubacterium hallei group specifically was highly correlated with improved social cognition.
Suggesting a synergy, that the combination is more than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. It really highlights that maybe combination therapies are the way forward for addressing core symptoms.
Okay, what about neurodegenerative diseases, things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's? Does the gut play a role there too?
Absolutely. In Parkinson's disease, for example, we know the gut microbiome is altered. A machine learning-based meta-analysis just this year confirmed that. And it's not just an association. A randomized trial from 2023 showed that fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT.
That's a much bigger step than probiotics, right?
Yeah.
Transferring a whole microbial community.
It is a much more comprehensive intervention. And this trial showed FMT significantly improved both motor symptoms, like movement, and non-motor symptoms, like sleep and constipation in Parkinson's patients.
That's quite remarkable. How might that be working?
Well, if we look closer at the Parkinson's gut, certain bacteria seem to be enriched, like Ruthenobacterium lactatiformans and specific Lactobacillus. But what's potentially even more revealing from that 2024 analysis, Pathways involved in breaking down environmental toxins, xenobiotics, things like pesticides, atrazine was mentioned, were found to be enriched in the gut metagenomes of Parkinson's patients.
Wow, so a potential link between environmental exposure, the gut handling of it, and the disease.
It strongly suggests that yes, a powerful connection.
In Alzheimer's, similar story.
There are definite parallels and some unique aspects. Research by Paroli and Pearson last year pointed to something called bacterial extracellular vesicles, or BEVs. These are tiny packages released by bacteria. They're emerging as potential players, possibly even a causal factor, partly because they might be able to cross into the brain.
Acting like little messengers, potentially harmful ones.
Potentially. And there are genetic links emerging too. For example, the gut bacterium Collinsella seems positively correlated with Alzheimer's diagnosis, especially in people with the APOE risk allele, a known genetic risk factor. But on the flip side, some bacteria that produce butyrate, a beneficial short-chain fatty acid, like certain Firmicutes genera, show a negative association. They might be protective due to their anti-inflammatory properties. And just practically, a study by Tun's group in 2020 showed that daily kefir supplementation, a fermented drink full of microbes, reduced oxidative stress and cell death markers in Alzheimer's patients.
Interesting. So even dietary approaches show promise.
Definitely part of the picture. So when we look ahead, what does this all mean for the future of treatment?
Well, it certainly feels like we're moving beyond just standard probiotics towards much more sophisticated targeted therapies.
Exactly. We're seeing the development of engineered probiotics designed for specific tasks, and these live biotherapeutics that O'Toole mentioned back in 2017, they aim for much more precision. And those bacterial extracellular vesicles, the BEVs, they're particularly exciting. While they might play a role in disease, their ability to cross barriers, like the blood-brain barrier, also makes them really promising candidates for targeted drug delivery, as Paroli and Pearson suggested.
Delivering therapies right to the brain using these bacterial packages. That sounds like science fiction.
It's cutting edge, but the potential is there. It could revolutionize how we treat brain disorders.
And it also sounds like the field is pushing hard towards personalization, doesn't it?
That really raises the key question for the future, I think. Tailoring interventions. Moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach to something that considers an individual's unique gut microbiota composition, that could lead to much more robust, effective results, as some of those pilot studies hinted.
Imagine getting a therapy designed specifically for your gut microbes.
That's the direction things seem to be heading.
So today we've taken a real deep dive into this incredible gut-brain connection. From influencing depression and anxiety to potentially impacting conditions like ASD, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. The links are just profound. It's clear this field is evolving incredibly quickly, promising new, highly targeted ways to support our well-being.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the insights we've shared today hopefully give you a shortcut to being truly well-informed about this cutting-edge area. The whole idea that cultivating the right internal garden, so to speak, could influence everything from your mood to your cognitive function.
Well, it's truly inspiring, isn't it?
It really makes you think differently about health, how intertwined our internal environment is with everything else. Maybe we'll even uncover ways the gut-brain axis influences things we don't even suspect yet, like our daily stress responses, or maybe even our capacity for things like mindfulness, as that one study suggested. It's wide open. So what stands out to you from today's discussion? What's the key takeaway you'll be thinking about? We really hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and given you some memorable insights to consider.
Thanks so much for joining us for this exploration of the gut-brain axis here on the Biomedical Podcast. We'll be back soon with more surprising facts and essential knowledge for your journey to being well-informed.